Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Atish Jain. I'm working as a data scientist in Gurgaon, India. In today's Excel for Beginners tutorial, I will show you some of the most important Excel formulas and functions that you need to know to get to intermediate level of Microsoft Excel skills. Today in this session, we will look at some of the Excel functions which will take us from basic to intermediate level Excel skills. Here, there is a content list in this table, which will be the content or topics which we will be covering in today's video. The first one that we will be covering is count, count A, count blank, count functions, then sum, max, min, average, then VLOOKUP, concatenate, COUNTIF, SUMIF, AVERAGEIF, if, followed by how to create a drop-down button, then how to apply conditional formatting. Then in the last one, we will learn how to use text to column function. Now, moving on to our working file. In this exercise, we have list of student from a class for which we have scores from a given test. We have the columns roll number, name, section, which is A, B or C, score out of 100. Now, let's start with the first cluster of formulas which we want to look at. The first one is count A. Count A is basically count all. So what it function does is that if you select a particular range, it gives you the number of non-null entries in that particular range. So I will here type the formula count A and then select the range as the score of the students. The output that I am getting is 16. While I have total number of students here is 18, we can see that 2 student doesn't have any score and the cells are empty. And so we can see count A is returning us 16. Now, moving to the next formula, which is count blank. Count blank, as the name suggests, gives us the number of blank or null entities in a given range. So let me type the formula here, count blank, and then select the same range. It is giving me the output as 2. Now let's move on to the third formula, which is count. Count gives us the number of records from a given range which are not null. Now, the difference between count A and count is that count only gives the record which are number in data type. So, let me type the formula count here and select the range. It is giving me as 16. Now, let's say in Chris, I am typing the score as X. It is again giving me 16 while the number of records in count A has changed to 17. So, here we can see that count A gives basically the non-null entities and count gives the non-null entities which are numeric in nature. Now, moving to the next cluster of formulas, we have sum. Sum, as the name suggests, gives us the sum of a given range. Now I'm typing sum and selecting the scores. So the sum of all scores across all the students is 1100. Now I want to see what is the maximum score across all the students. I am providing the same range here and the maximum score obtained here is 95. Now let's see which student has got 95. We can see Rohit from section B has got 95 as the score. Now I want to see what is the minimum score across all the students, for which I am using the formula min and selecting this score range. The minimum score achieved is by Saurav from section B, which is 0. Now moving to the next formula, which is average. Average, as the name suggests, it gives the average score for all the students. Now I'm typing the formula average, selecting the range. So I'm getting the average as 68.75. Point to note here is that average considers all the non-null entities for calculating the base. Now, if I'm typing, let's say, some number for Krish, let's say I'm typing 20, so the average changes. So, right now we have looked across two particular cluster formulas, which are count A, count blank, then sum, max, min, and average. Now let's move on to next set of formulas. We will look into VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is one of the most important and most useful formula which comes very handy when doing any data analysis. Now let's see what the heck is VLOOKUP. I am typing VLOOKUP here. It asks me to provide 4 arguments. The first one is lookup value. Now, the lookup value is the value which is your input for which you want certain output from a given range. Now, here my input is Rohit. I am selecting Rohit, which is in K4 cell. Now it is asking me table array. Now, table array is the table from which we would take the output provided this input. Here I am selecting this table array. Now, point to note here is that the input should be the first column of the table array. If I am selecting the table array starting from roll number, then I won't get the desired output. Hence, I would have to select the input starting from the name column. Now, once I have selected the input array, the table array, I will press F4. Now you can see that there are 4 $sign across the cell number. What it does is that it freezes the data frame for which we want to get the output, so that if we copy and paste the formula for the next cell, then the referred data remains frozen. The third argument that is asked is column index number. Now this is the column number which will be the output column for our input. Here we want the score corresponding the student name. So in our selected table array, it is the third column. So I am entering here 3. Now the fourth argument is asked as range lookup. So it is a type of lookup. Basically you want to match approximate match or exact match. So we will do exact match here, and hence I am typing false. In place of false, you can enter 0, which is boolean in nature. Now we can see that we have got the score for Rohit. I will copy this formula and stretch it to the next 2 students. Now let's match if we have got the correct values or not. The score for Rohit here mentioned is 95. Let's look at the table. We can see Rohit from section B has got 95 scores. Amit from section B has got 70. Priya from section A has got 75. So yes, you can see that with this formula we can get the score given a input. Now let's move on to the next formula, which is concatenate. Here I want to combine the name of the student along with the score. So I will select the name and then press ampersand, and then I will give double quotes and hyphen under it, and then again select ampersand, and now select the score. So it gives me the name of the student separated by hyphen and then the score. So instead of writing this, you can also write the formula concatenate, where you can select the name of the student, comma, again in quotes give hyphen, and then select the score. So you can see that I have used 2 methods here to perform same exercise. One can be by writing using ampersand, and then another can be by directly typing in the function name, which is concatenate. I will stretch it to the next student, which is Priya. So you have seen that I have used VLOOKUP and concatenate function here. Now I will move on to count the number of students across each section. For this, I will use a function named COUNTIF. So let's type COUNTIF. Now in COUNTIF, I am asked 2 arguments. The first argument is range, the range from which you want to count. So I am selecting the range section here. I am again pressing F4 to freeze this range. Now I am passing the criteria. So from the given range, what is the criteria or what is the input value that you want to count, the occurrence of the input value. So here I am selecting the section A and pressing enter. I am getting 8. Now I will copy or drag this formula to next two sections, and you can see for B I have found 7 students, and for C I have found 3 students. This in total becomes 7 plus 3 10 plus 8 18, and as you can see in my input data frame I have 18 students. Now let's move on to the next formula where we want to find the total score across all students for a given section. Here we will use SUMIF. Now, after typing SUMIF, I am getting 3 arguments here. Range and criteria are again same as to what we used earlier. I will select the input range, then press F4 to freeze it, then select the section. Now, sum range is the sum range, basically the range which should be numeric in nature, for which you want to find the sum given the criteria. Here I want the sum of the scores, and hence I am selecting the score range. Point here to note is that the dimension of the range should be same as that of the section criteria that we had provided, which is D column, D4 to D21. Now again I am freezing the sum here as well and pressing enter. I will again drag this to other two sections. Now you can see that section A has achieved total score of 520, B 455 sorry, and C 125. Now if I want to compare the two sections in terms of performance, it is not the ideal method to compare the sum of the scores. What would be better is to compare the average score per student across the sections, for which we have the formula AVERAGEIF. Now I will type the formula AVERAGEIF. Again, similar to the sum range function, it is asking me the input criteria, which is the section. Now I'm pressing F4, selecting the section name. Now selecting the output criteria, which is the output range, which is score in our case. Now I am dragging it again. So if I drag it now, what you can see is that the range, since I have not frozen my range for the average value, so it has shifted down when as I drag the formula downwards. So I will rectify it. I will go and freeze the output range E4 and E21. Now I will copy the formula and paste it in the two cells. Now you can see that the formatting is not consistent here. What we will do is that I will select all the 3 cells of the average. I will go to the home tab. Here there are many different options to do the formatting. You can see under the data type tab there is increased decimal or decreased decimal. Here I want to decrease decimal to make it consistent. So as I'm doing it, I'm keeping it to 2 decimal points, and now the formatting is done. Now let's move on to the next function. Now we will see what is the use of if here. If is a conditional function where if today is sunny, then there will be no rain, else there will be rain, which can, as an example you can take. Now I am typing if here. Here the score criteria to consider as passed is 40. So if say a student has scored above 40, he would be considered as pass. If the score is less than 40, then less than equal to 40, then fail. And if no score is available, then retest would be the criteria. So first I will write if E4 is not equal to blank, which is double quotes, then again one more conditional nested if E4 is greater than 40, then we will make it as pass, else he will be considered as fail. We will close this function, comma, what happens if E4 or the score is blank, then the student will have to take a retest. We'll close the loop here, and then we will drag the formula till the end for all students. So here we have pass, failed, and retest basis the scores. Let's move on to the next function, which is drop down list. We will create a drop down list here. I have selected this cell. Now I will go to the tab and select data. Then from data, I will select data validation. In the data validation, in under these settings, I have the option allow any value. I will select here list. Now in the source, I will select the source that I want in the drop down as the options, and then I will press OK. So now I have created a drop down here where I have the list of students in the drop down, and I can select any student here. What I can do is that I can copy this from here and paste it here instead of Rohit. Ta-da! Now you can see here is that I have a drop down option here, and the name of the student selected in the drop down, for that student I will get the score and the concatenated value. So I will change from Rohit to Roger. The score has changed. To Tim, the score has changed. So this is the power of combining VLOOKUP with dropdown. Now I will come back to the new formula, which is conditional formatting. What I will do is that I will select this score range. Now in the home, I will go and select conditional formatting. I will select highlight cell rules. Here I will select greater than. So we will change the color beyond a threshold score. The threshold here is 40. Above 40, I want the color filled with green to dark green, and I will press OK. So here you can see that as the score is increasing, the intensity of the color is also increasing. I will press Ctrl Z to undo this. I will show you another conditional formatting. I will select the conditional formatting, select the color scale. Here the first one is green, yellow, red. So the highest score will become green and the lowest score will become red. So here we can visually see the gradient of the scores. Now coming to the next formula, which is the final one in our set of 11 formulas or 11 clusters that we have been visiting today. This is text to column. Now what it does is that I will select the concatenated cells that I've created here. I have name and score separated by hyphen. Now we will separate these text to columns. I will go to data, select text to column here, select delimited. Here under hyphen, under others, I am entering hyphen because there is no predefined selection available for this. I'm going next. Now the destination cell that I want would be the cell next to the first one, and then finish. You can see that we have the name and score separated here in two columns. So today we have learned different types of useful Excel functions which are the base for doing any data analysis and which takes ones from beginner to intermediate level. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching it. Please subscribe to my channel for more such video on data application in real world problems.